going to be talking about one of the most exciting topics, everybody's favorite topic, activity, chores. Are you one of those people that, when they come home from a long day, either at school or from work, and you just can't wait to take out that vacuum cleaner, to empty the trash, clean out your closet or whatever? It's actually fun. I wish I was you. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I'm not one of those people. I want to do quite the opposite when I come home. And my brother and I would actually argue all the time about who does what chore. We would always argue. And there was one particular chore that we did not want to do because it took up the most time. And that was helping my dad fix his truck. It's a nice sunny day, weekend. Your friends are out going to play volleyball or soccer or just hang out at the lake. And my dad comes along and he's like, "Hey, you want to come help me fix my truck? I need to change the oil." Now, knowing my dad, I know that that's not the only thing he's not only gonna change the oil. He's gonna look at the brakes, he's gonna look at some electrical things, wash the truck, do all these things because, we're already there, might as well do it. So I know this thing will take up the whole entire day, and I won't be able to do anything I want. And so I usually got the short end of the stick. I usually went, at least it seems like it, I usually went to the truck while my brother went out to do whatever he wanted. And I thought it was unfair. And we always argued about it when it came up. I went last weekend, this time you go. But again, I usually got the short end of the stick, and it was unfair. Life is unfair, though. Many times when we come into a situation that seems unfair, we compare our lives to the lives of other people. It makes us feel maybe a little bit better. It makes us feel like we're justifying ourselves. God, why? Why am I in this situation? Why are you blessing the other person but not me? However, if we look at the Bible, it really tells us to not compare our lives to those of others, but to focus on our own lives and to follow Jesus and to serve him to the best of our abilities. And today I want us to turn to John chapter 21, and we'll read verse 15 through 23. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" And he said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Feed my lambs." He said unto him a second time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him a third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my sheep. Truly, truly, I say unto you, when you were young, you used to dress yourself and walk wherever you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and another will dress you and carry you to where you don't want to go." This he said to show by what kind of death he was to glorify God. And after saying this, he said unto him, "Follow me." And Peter turned and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved following them, the one who also leaned back against him during the supper and said, "Lord, who is that that's going to betray you?" When Peter saw him, he said to Jesus, "Lord, what about this man?" Jesus said unto him, "If it is my will that he remain until I come, what is it to you? You follow me." So this story takes place in a very low point in Peter's life. He just betrayed Jesus right before his death, and he witnessed Jesus also die. And so here we see the story unfolding, Jesus asked Peter to be the leader of his people, but he also reveals to him how he's going to die. And by referencing that, it says here, you will stretch out your arms. You will stretch out your hands. Jesus is referencing the cross. He's not only telling Peter that you are going to die, but he's telling him, you are going to die the same way I just did. This was fresh in Peter's mind. It was something that he witnessed. He witnessed the beatings of Jesus. He witnessed the lashings. He witnessed when they put him on the cross. He knew that this was torture, and this was just fresh in his mind. And here, Jesus is saying, this is the way you're going to die. So Peter's first reaction is, well, what about John? This situation doesn't seem fair to me. What about John? Is he going to die the same way? And Jesus bluntly responds, that's none of your business, Peter. I told you to follow me. Whatever happens to John, even if he stays until I come back a second time, that doesn't matter. I told you to follow me. And so, in today's world of technology and social media, it is very easy, especially in unfair situations, to compare ourselves to others. It is easy to look up someone on Facebook or Instagram, or to be honest, anywhere, and see how they're living their life and compare it to them. Sometimes it makes us feel a little bit better about ourselves. We're doing better than that person. A little bit of pride. Other times, we feel a little bit jealous. Like, how can they afford those nice things? How can they be traveling to those exotic places? Other times we just might feel depressed, sitting in our classroom or cubicle and knowing that we can't afford to go where they go. We can't afford that nice, shiny car. And what that does, that really distracts us from the will of God. That really distracts us from serving Him to the fullest of our abilities. Instead, we're worried about trying to one-up that other person, sometimes even a stranger that we have no idea who they are. And in reality, how many people post all the bad things on social media that happen to them? When they're stuck with the cold, or when they get fired from a job or fail a test. Nobody really posts that up. And so we end up comparing our lives, the bad, the good, the everything, to what is really good in the other person's life. And we don't really see their struggles. We don't really see what they're going through. And a lot of times, it may seem like the situation is unfair, and though God's will may not seem, does not make sense in our lives. But I want us to look at a person called Joseph. He is one of the few characters in the Bible that the Bible never really mentions that he did anything wrong. However, when we read his story, we see that he is sold into slavery by his own brothers. And even then, when he overcomes the slavery, he becomes one of the leading people, one of the leading servants under his master. He is falsely accused and thrown into prison. Maybe he did wonder, God, why is this so unfair? I didn't do anything wrong. I've been faithful to you. I've been righteous. But my brothers are free, and they sold me into slavery. Potiphar's wife is living in luxury, and I'm stuck here in prison. Why is this? But we see that he trusted God, and he continued to trust Him, even when he was down low, at the lowest points of his life. And through him, God saved millions of people from famine, from hunger. A lot of times, God's will does not make sense. It may seem unfair, or it may just seem something we don't want to do at the time. And I want us to turn to Matthew chapter 16, and we'll read verses 24 through 26. Matthew 16, 24 through 26. Then Jesus told his disciples, if anyone would If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his own soul? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul? What I want to say is, here, I want to encourage every one of you to take up your cross and to follow Jesus. Now, what does it mean to take up your cross? Many people misinterpret this verse and think it means it's a burden we carry. For example, maybe a sickness you have, or a terrible job that you don't like, or a bad relationship. But really, that's not what it means, because God has given us victory over those things. What this means is, today we look at the cross as redemption. We look at the cross as the symbol of Christianity. We remember Jesus' blood and everything he did for us. He saved us, he cleaned us, he freed us. But during Jesus' time, that's not at all what they thought of the cross. They knew it as death, and they knew it as the worst type of death possible, perfected by the Romans. And so when Jesus says, take up your cross, he basically is saying, are you willing to die for me? Are you willing to go through the worst for me? Are you willing to pay that kind of sacrifice? Are you willing to lose your close family and friends? Are you willing to lose your job or your earthly possessions? Are you willing to die for me? Now, that doesn't mean all these things will happen in your life. But are you ready if they do happen? Are you ready? Will you still follow Jesus if those things do happen? And so I want to return to our story earlier about Peter. You know, when Peter asked, what about John? You know, John was the only disciple that we know of that died a natural death. Nobody killed him. But that doesn't mean his life was easy. It was actually quite the contrary. They tried to kill him many times. I read an account where they even boiled him in oil, and he still survived. They finally gave up and they exiled him to Patmos, and that's where he died, in the cold, dark, alone. So his life wasn't really easy, and Peter was trying to compare his own life to him. Many times, we don't really know what's going on in the other person's life. Many times the situation may seem unfair to us. God's plan doesn't make sense in our eyes. But today, I want to encourage you to take up your cross, to focus on your life, to serve God to the best of your abilities with the talents that you have.